Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the time to listen to the White Rock story. I'm going to go fairly quickly through it. You can find this on our website, and I have a booth M15 where you can come and catch me afterwards or over the next 2 days. The normal disclaimer, no apologies as a small junior company in making forward-looking statements, because we have to look forward and not backwards. So very simply, what are we in one slide? We have two, obviously slightly biased in my opinion, but two high quality assets, one in Australia, one in the USA. I'm hoping that by the end of my presentation today you might also agree with me or half agree with me and come and see me afterwards. A great exposure to precious metals and to zinc, on a combined basis over 3 million ounces of gold equivalent, just to try and give you a sense of the value of the two projects that we have. We have a globally significant zinc and precious metals project in Alaska, where we just finished our first season on the ground, and I'm more than happy to talk to people about Alaska, but in my experience, and I've worked in interesting places around the world, it's a fantastic place to work, both geologically but also from an infrastructure, government support point of view. And our work, even in the last few months, has attracted the billion-dollar ASX listed company in Sandfire to our register, so they can see what we can see, and we are hopeful that we'll enter into that joint venture with them. And I think that's a strong message for a potential investor, or certainly existing shareholder, that maybe don't believe me, but we've got a large company that's very successful, also sees what we see. But we also have a second child, and we're supposed to love both our children equally. This is a gold and silver project in northern New South Wales. And again, I am slightly biased, but we do have a well-regarded and credentialed board, and I'll touch on that as well. So where are we? Mount Carrington, northern New South Wales, gold and silver project, 2 hours inland from Byron Bay. It's got JORC resource, JORC reserve. It's on a mining lease. It's got tailings dam. It's got an 18-month approvals process ahead of it. Where else are we? Red Mountain, imaginative name. The outcropping sulphide has caused the mountain to turn red. Geologists are wonderful with their imagination. But significant JORC resource we put out last year, maiden JORC resource, put it in the top quartile of undeveloped zinc projects in the world. It's only 100 kilometres due south of Fairbanks, so it's a half-hour Cessna or chopper ride. There are places of Alaska that are a lot more infrastructure challenged, so we're quite lucky. And VMSs come in camps, come in clusters. We've already got 2 known deposits. I'll explain a little bit more about what we discovered, our own virgin discovery this year, and our tenement package has 30 similar targets. White Rock itself, ASX listed, a couple of million in the bank. No debt in the two projects that I touched on. A good register, Sandfire, we've got some high net worth, we've got a New York private equity, and we've got the Zijin Sprott Asset Management in there. So I think it's a good mix of retail, insto and private equity, and as a junior you always try and grow that register, so hopefully there are some people in the room that would also like to join that register. So what are we? We do have two projects, dominant in zinc, silver and gold, and you can see that split, the significant value across those two, and trying to explain to people, what is White Rock's underlying value across those. If you normalise it into the one metal, and I've picked on gold, it's the equivalent of having over a 3 million ounce deposit, which is quite significant. So bubble chart, the size of the bubble is the size of the contained metal. Grade on the bottom is zinc, the grade y-axis is grade equivalent. You want to be in the top right-hand corner if you can. And you can see that our red bubble is already equal to some of our ASX listed peers in Red River at Thalanga and Heron at Woodlawn. Now there are some huge zinc deposits out there, Algeria, Greenland, New Century. But in terms of grade, I'm a mining engineer, love geologists, grade is king. Given that this was private, unlisted for 15 years and we've only had our first season, I think it's a hell of a start for the company. High grade component of 12.9% zinc equivalent puts it in that top quartile and equal to our peers on the ASX already. I do it in pounds and not just in tonnes, because certainly in North America, and some of the big zinc deposits are in North America, they deal in pounds. So it's over 1.5 billion pounds of zinc, 500 million pounds of lead, 53 million ounces of silver in its own right, and 350,000 ounces of gold in its own right. I'm not the last one that'll ever stand in front of you and say we're undervalued compared to our peers, but it's true, and that's work done by DJ Carmichael, Bloomberg and others. And even if they were half right, you'd have to think that when the market wakes up to this story, hopefully we move a little bit to the left compared to our peers. And you can see our grade is certainly second to none already. And that's without giving any value to our New South Wales asset. Where are we? We're in central Alaska. I've touched on the high-grade JORC resource that we put out. We're half an hour south of Fairbanks, so we're surrounded on three sides by all-weather road and rail out to the all-weather port at Anchorage, which would be where a concentrate would go from. I don't think many investors give enough consideration to sovereign risk, and I would encourage you to go to the Fraser Institute if you're not aware of it. The only Australian state in the Fraser Institute top 10 is WA. And my experience personally to date in Alaska has been second to none, and it's been a general comment, whether you like Trump or not, and I'm not going to get into the politics, it's certainly been good for business and unlocking a lot of the EPA bottlenecks that were occurring previously. Those that follow Northern Star know that they bought Pogo, and I think that's a great endorsement of what we've been telling the market about Alaska, and it's open for business. No community issues, First Nation or Alaskan Native as they call themselves. The Americans handled it brilliantly. I have to admit that you compare it to the Canadians and the Australians, and I can thank the British for that. Native title hasn't been handled nearly as well or as clearly as the US. And again, happy to talk to you about that, because it's certainly very crystal clear where you stand with the locals in the US and certainly in Alaska. When we acquired the ground, it was 15 square k's with 2 known deposits. We got the public domain geochem and geophysics data. We had experts analyse that. They found 30 similar targets to the 2 known targets, and we expanded our footprint out to 140 square kilometres. So we have a JORC resource, 2 known deposits, 30 similar targets, of which one of those turned into a maiden discovery for us during our very first season on the ground. Drilling the 2 known deposits, grades over 40% zinc equivalent. Not many of those occurred during the year. The deposit is open down depth and in places along strike. Wasn't just one hole, it was a couple of holes. So for our first season, given that we're poking a hole, holes in a foreign country, we were pretty happy with that. But it wasn't just working around the 2 known deposits. We also made our own virgin discovery. It was outcropping zinc and lead over 20% rock chips at surface, traced for over 500 metres along strike. Our budget only allowed us 2 holes, and we put 2 holes into it. Fairly narrow, 1.4, 1.8 metres, but great grades, over 20% zinc equivalent. So helping to prove the thesis that VMSs come in camps, in clusters, and where you find one, hopefully you find more. Moving very quickly through our other child that we love, it's a JORC resource with a JORC reserve on a mining lease with a tails dam. Again, if we just look at our valuation compared to peers, and if we were half right, there's got to be some value added for our shareholders with our Mount Carrington asset. It's had past mining, you walk onto ore, it's got a tails dam, so it's got a great head start. It's a low capex entry, it's only 30 odd million, there aren't many like that around. 2 hours inland from Byron Bay. Given that it's had past mining, it's on forestry. It does have an 18 months approval process ahead of it, but we're ready with a strategy to unroll. We've got a very supportive state government and locals and also council. Feasibility study done, as I said, at permitting stage yet to go, and it's got upside. We've got 180 square k's under tenement. There are drill targets we could drill tomorrow. We've already done 100,000 metres of drilling, so our plan is to go through the approvals and get that into production. And then it's got silver. It's got another 3 to 4 years of silver. It's one of the few exposures, true exposures to gold and silver. We could actually start mining the silver first if we wanted to. Board and management. I'm the boy with 30 odd years experience. Brian, chairman, has also had been involved with MPI. Brian's on the board of Panoramic. Peter Lester's probably well known to many, Oxiana, Citadel, is on the board of Millennium. Ian Smith, most people know, ex-MD of Newcrest and Orica. Jeremy, based in London with finance. So unusual, 4 of us are mining engineers, but we do all bring different skill sets with the desire to grow and build the business. So exploration at Red Mountain, move Carrington in production, then into silver, and we're also on the lookout, as most juniors are, for that next opportunity. Where do we sit? Independent valuations, and you can find this on our website, anywhere from 50 to 100 million, even if they're half right. Our market cap currently is 10 million. Again, even if I'm a quarter right, I think there's an opportunity. I'd like to think there's an opportunity for the investor. Very brief summary, you can see it there. If you'd like to know more, come and see me at my booth afterwards. Thank you.